Right, it's time to move on to fitting the roof cross supports to the sides of the framework. So all our framework has now been done. We need to make sure that the clear side and not the framework side is facing inwards, and then you'll have all your roof supports, and again hopefully you've made sure that these all fit in these holes. And then what we're going to be doing is fitting them in. We're going to be adding a little bit of super glue. Now we need to use super glue on this one because we're fitting it to plastic. I'd hate super glue, so use this very, very carefully. Certainly suggest wearing some kind of gloves, and we're going to be using it sparingly, and I'll be tipping it onto a small piece of MDF and then using the cocktail stick to dab it, and then literally put it around the holes. You don't want to be adding it along the sides of the support, just in the holes, basically there and there, and we'll do one at a time. And we need to hold it in position, allow it to dry, and then we need to move on and move on, etc, etc, allow them to dry. Once that's done, then we can add the other side. So let's start on this side and we'll show you how we go along. And remember, when you're doing this, is try not to get your grubby little finger marks all on this glazing. If you do, just get your cloth, a little bit of IPA, and wipe it off, and then clean it off again. And the last thing you want is to lift it up, and then all you can see is finger marks everywhere. And that's the first side done. So again, just go over the glazing inside with some IPA and dry it out to make sure you got as less finger marks as possible. It is virtually impossible to get it finger mark free, but I think if you wear some sort of like rubber gloves like they wear, mechanics wear, that you might just get away with it. I've looked at it and I can still see a few finger marks, but hey ho. Anyway, that's the 5 fitted on the other side, so they're drying nicely. Well, obviously super glue will dry fairly quickly, so the next thing to do is to fit the other side to this side, and we've then got a frame that should be a fairly bit sturdy. Then we can think about adding the 2 end pieces. So I'll turn it around and add the other side. And there we have our 2 side frames fitted. Now when I come to do the other side, I did leave on the sides like this, and I just added the glue in each of the holes and then offered it up, and I did one side at a time, gradually working my way along, pushing it in, making sure I'm trying not to get my finger marks all over the board, gradually working my way along. Once I've managed to get it all in the holes, I then basically tipped it on its side and then used my piece of MDF to flatten it against the panels to make sure that they were all in nicely, and that's glued and shouldn't be going anywhere. So I'm going to just leave that to dry for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can look at adding the end panels on as well. So you should have got this far with both sides now glued in place. So we now need to add your ends, and then we do one end at a time. And then again, depending on whether you bought the through road or the dead end, I've got a through road here, but the joining is exactly the same. Now there are 2 holes, one there, one there, one there, and one there. And then again on the sides here, there. So we're going to be adding some super glue into this hole here, in hole there, there, and there. Now you might want to get a little bit of Tamiya masking tape and just hold it into position while it's drying. Super glue dries pretty damn quick, but don't put too much masking tape on. And I'll most probably add a bead of glue down the end of here as well, just to bond it. We do one at a time, make sure you get it in correctly, allow this one to dry thoroughly, and then we can turn it around and replicate the other end. So let's have a go at doing that. And there we have our framework all glued into position. So we now need to strengthen it a little bit more by adding the cross members, and there are 4 cross members down each slope of the roof, so that's 8 in total. So you should have had those with your kit, and I've primed mine in grey I've only done 3 sides. You don't need to prime the side that's facing upwards because the roof corrugated card section is going to be going on there, and as you'll see at the end there are some grooves where your roof's cross members will go in, and we just need to add a little bit of glue on the tops of the roofs to keep them in position and you hold them in place. Don't use super glue anymore, don't really need it on wood, and go back to using the Deluxe Materials products. You might need a tiny little peg or something just to hold these in while they're in position. I should be giving a little template because obviously the ones that going in between the second and third cross members up will be the important ones for the premium kit with the roof windows, because obviously our framework will fit in between those, so we need to make sure that that's correct all the way along. So we will need to add the template in the middle just to make sure we've got that 28mm gap. So if you haven't already painted your cross members, you need to do those, and then we'll think about fitting them, doing them one side at a time. In your kit you'll get these 3 spacer plates. So you've got a bottom roof spacer, the roof spacer for where the windows go, obviously that's for the premium kit, and a top roof spacer. Now the cross members slot into the slots on your acrylic ends, but obviously without these panels they could be a little bit awkward to get level, so we've created these panels. So best thing to do is to fit your bottom cross member first and then add your bottom roof spacer. Add a dab of glue here, here and here, and you can also do the acrylic bit as well if you want to. Line it up with the spacer, then you can add the next cross member and glue that in place. Once that's done, I would suggest leaving this plate in. You've then got your first cross member for your roof spacer for the windows, so then you can put this one in and glue it on the end here, here, here and here. Allow that one to dry and then add your top roof spacer cross member. That should then give you a lovely horizontal cross member that then when you add your roof glazing, it should just then simply slot inside the gaps between the cross members. And again, if you want to glue it down you can. I'd certainly recommend that you do glue these down because you might get just a slight little bit of lip at the end, but we will have a small piece of gutter strip that you can put in there anyway, and hopefully that will hide any unsightly gap. And so best thing to do next is to glue your cross members in place. So I'm going to do this side, allow that to dry, and then I'll replicate it on the other side. When you're doing your roof cross members, when you're doing them one at a time, obviously when you get this far it's certainly worth using your cocktail stick or a tiny little screwdriver to lift the center part out gently. Hopefully you won't move your cross members, just allow them to dry slightly to make sure that you haven't got any excess glue that's seeped below and is gluing this panel in position. So again, just take it out, make sure it's okay. If you've got any glue on it, just wipe it off, then put this back into position. You know you've cleared any excess glue, allow it to dry, and then remove it again before moving on to the next one. But I would certainly suggest putting this back in before you do the next one, just in case this one has come loose. But hopefully, I'm not using super glue, I'm just using Deluxe Materials rocket card glue on this one.